Alright, so let's talk about one of the best parts of Final Fantasy Tactics, the Ivalice Chronicles, the job system. This is where the game really opens up, because you're not just stuck with preset characters or cookie-cutter roles. You get to shape your own army of generics into absolute monsters on the battlefield. And honestly, when you build them right, these so-called normal units can go toe-to-toe with the unique heroes of Ivalice. That's the kind of depth that keeps people coming back to this game decades later. In this video, we're diving into a tier list of all the standard jobs, the ones your generic human units can access. We're looking at everything they bring to the table: stats, action skills, reactions, support abilities, and even movement options. Think of it as the ultimate guide to figuring out which jobs are worth investing your time into and which ones you can safely ignore. Whether you're here to min-max or just enjoy a balanced run without insane grinding, this breakdown is going to give you a clear picture of which jobs truly shine in Ivalice. I'm quickly moving on to the video, and I'm ranking jobs in Final Fantasy Tactics, the Ivalice Chronicles. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching. The jobs in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Dancer, Bard, and Mime. You ever unlock a job in a game, put in the work, get all excited to try it out, and then realize it is basically just a very shiny paperweight? Yeah, welcome to the world of D-tier jobs in Final Fantasy Tactics, the Ivalice Chronicles. These are the jobs you grind for, test out, and then quietly switch out of while pretending it never happened. Let's start with the Dancer. On paper, it sounds amazing. Debuffing enemies? That should be a game changer, right? In practice, though, it is slow, clunky, and feels like trying to fight a fire with a spray bottle. The dances can mess with enemy stats, and that is technically more useful than the Bard's attempt at buffing your own party. But the problem is speed. By the time the debuff lands, the battle has usually already moved on. The best part of the Dancer is not the dances at all, but the fact that she can grant you some seriously good movement abilities later. If you're playing for fun, sure, but for efficiency, not so much. Now, on the other side of the coin, we have the Bard. If the Dancer is the slow-motion debuffer, then the Bard is the slow-motion cheerleader. The songs buff your allies, and that sounds great, until you realize you need to dedicate multiple turns to make even the tiniest dent in the fight. Imagine trying to hype up your party, but only half of them hear you because the others already finished the battle. Again, the saving grace here is not the music, but the movement abilities you unlock. So yes, your Bard may be useless in combat, but at least he is training his legs for a marathon. Then there is the Mime, the ultimate be careful what you wish for job. The Mime literally copies whatever your other units do. Sounds cool, right? The problem is that it comes with handcuffs. No secondary abilities allowed, no real control, and a ridiculous unlock requirement that makes you wonder if the developers were trolling. Sure, if you have an arithmetician, a bard, or a dancer, you can make something funny happen, and yes, the growth rates are phenomenal. But honestly, you could just use those turns to actually win the fight instead of trying to set up a mime gimmick. Here's the thing. All three of these jobs, the dancer, the bard, and the mime, end up feeling like novelty acts. They are fun to experiment with late in the game when you are bored, but they will never replace the satisfaction of blasting enemies with a black mage or crushing them with a knight. They are too slow, too situational, and require too much setup in a game that is already not that punishing to begin with. And yet, they are not completely worthless. The movement skills they unlock are absolute gold. The Dancer gives you move +3, the Bard lets you zip around the map like you are running track, and the Mime offers fly, which is basically the ultimate flex in mobility. So even if the jobs themselves are mediocre in combat, their parting gifts are legendary. You suffer through the grind, and in return, your other jobs get to zoom around the battlefield like superheroes. Think of these jobs like that friend who cannot help with the group project, but somehow has the best car and gives everyone a ride. They are not carrying the team in the classroom, but they are definitely carrying it in the parking lot. You are not keeping them around for their personality. You are keeping them around for their perks. At the end of the day, the Dancer, Bard, and Mime are the ultimate reminder that not every job in Final Fantasy Tactics is meant to shine on the battlefield. Some are there just to teach you patience, troll your expectations, and then hand you a shiny movement ability as a consolation prize. They are late-game novelties, little experiments to toy with, and then put back on the shelf once you have had your laugh. So if you are the type who wants to min-max and dominate every encounter, these jobs are going to disappoint you. But if you are the type who loves a bit of chaos, a bit of silliness, and a lot of grinding for a sweet payoff in movement, then hey, maybe D tier is not so bad after all. The jobs in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right: Thief, Mystic, and Archer. You know that feeling when you order something online and it shows up and technically works. But you realize there are way better versions out there? That is what C-tier jobs in Final Fantasy Tactics, the Ivalice Chronicles, feel like. They are functional, they are useful in the right situation, but they are never your first pick when the real heavy hitters are on the bench. Let's start with the Thief. On the surface, this job screams utility. You can swipe weapons, helmets, armor, and even accessories right off enemies, which can turn a fight in your favor or get you gear way earlier than intended. That is cool. But as a dedicated battlefield role, it is weak. The stats are not impressive, and trying to win fights by stealing is like trying to win Monopoly by handing out get-out-of-jail-free cards. The saving grace here is that Move +2 ability. That extra movement range is something you will definitely want to carry into other jobs, even if you leave the Thief itself behind. Then we have the Mystic. Now this one is interesting, because on paper it sounds like a nightmare for your enemies. Status-inflicting magic everywhere. Blindness, silence, confusion, you name it. In practice though, the spells take forever to cast, and enemies often resist them anyway. Physical debuffs usually get the job done faster. The real shining light here is that this job is a requirement for unlocking the Arithmetician, who can make great use of the Mystic's skill set. Oh, and surprisingly, Mystics can dish out real damage with poles. That sounds cool until you realize they are still a fragile mage trying to play baseball with a stick. Risky business, but fun if you like to live dangerously. And then there is the Archer. Everyone loves a bow user early on, right? Safe distance, chip away at enemies, feels good. The problem is that the Archer peaks early and then just kind of sits there. The aim commands sound powerful, but they rely heavily on charge times that often do not line up with the flow of battle. Combine that with average stat growth, and you are left with a job that feels more like a stepping stone than a destination. Still, the concentration ability can come in handy, and aim makes for a decent secondary if you want some extra ranged pressure. What makes all three of these jobs land in C tier is that they are not bad. They are not Dancer, Bard, or Mime levels of frustrating. They just get overshadowed. The Thief is fun until you realize a ninja can steal and also destroy everything else. The Mystic is fun until you realize other mages can deal instant guaranteed pain without waiting. The Archer is fun until you realize guns exist and bows suddenly feel like toys from the dollar store. That said, each of these jobs has at least one golden nugget that makes them worth trying. The Thief's Move +2 is a game changer for movement builds. The Mystic's Debilitate is genuinely strong if you can line it up right. The Archer's concentration can sometimes be the difference between missing a key shot and landing a perfect hit. They all have that one, oh wow, that's actually useful moment. Think of C-tier jobs as the sidekicks of Final Fantasy Tactics. They will never be the main character, but they can help out and occasionally steal the spotlight for a second. They are not glamorous, and they will not win you the toughest fights on their own, but they will do the job if you need them in a pinch. In the long run though, you are probably not going to keep them around. They are situational tools, stepping stones to better things, or jobs you use just long enough to grab that one ability and never look back. They are not bad, but in a game with so many incredible options, not bad just does not cut it. The jobs in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right: Squire, Dragoon, Summoner, Orator, and Knight. Sometimes in Final Fantasy Tactics, the Ivalice Chronicles, you run into jobs that are not game-breaking, but they are not throwaways either. These are the reliable co-workers, the always gets the job done, but never asks for a raise kind of classes. Welcome to B tier, where the jobs are dependable, situationally amazing, and often worth leveling for their abilities even if you do not keep them long-term. Let's kick it off with the Squire. Everyone starts here, and honestly, it looks boring. But dig a little deeper, and suddenly the Squire is full of quality of life goodness. JP Up is one of the best skills in the game for grinding. Move +1 is an early lifesaver before you unlock better mobility, and Focus is an underrated little gem for those turns when your melee unit cannot quite reach the enemy yet. Is a Squire going to carry you through the endgame? Absolutely not. But as a stepping stone, it is invaluable. Now the Dragoon, oh boy, this one is fun. Nothing says style points like launching into the sky and coming down with a spear through your enemy's skull. The jump ability deals huge damage and makes your unit untouchable during the charge. Pair that with strong physical attack and health growth, and you have got yourself a classic heavy hitter. The only downside? Timing. The charge time can leave you whiffing if the enemy moves, and it sometimes feels like you are playing hopscotch instead of combat. But hey, You can equip the strongest weapon in the game, the upgraded Javelin. That alone earns major bragging rights. The Summoner is where things get flashy. Huge area of effect spells, magical beasts blowing up the battlefield, and support options on top of that. Summons bypass obstacles, which is insanely useful, and they look amazing every time. But here's the problem: long charge times, massive magic point costs, and some truly awful stat growth. Outside of magic attack, this job is a disaster to grow in. Most players end up grabbing the summon skill set and slapping it on a sturdier mage job. Still, spells like Golem can save entire fights, even if it requires some gimmicky equipment to make it consistent. Orator is one of those jobs you laugh at when you first see it, but then realize it is kind of essential. The invite ability lets you recruit monsters and even some humans mid-battle, which is hilarious and practical. Adjusting bravery and faith is also critical for certain builds, whether you want a fearless tank or a cautious spellcaster. Everything else in the Orator's kit is situational at best, but there is one major highlight: the Equip Gun support ability. Suddenly, you can hand out guaranteed long-range damage to jobs that would never otherwise touch a gun. It is silly, but it works. The Knight, meanwhile, feels like a warm blanket early on. Heavy armor, solid health, and just enough utility to matter. The Arts of War skills let you break enemy equipment permanently, which is hilarious when you strip a boss of their weapon and watch them flail helplessly. Is it niche? Yes. But sometimes that niche wins the fight. Plus, the Knight is a requirement for higher tier physical jobs, so you are going to spend time here no matter what. It is not glamorous, but it is reliable, and sometimes that is all you need. What all of these jobs have in common is that they are not designed to be the star of the show. They are not S-tier juggernauts or A-tier staples. They are supporting actors, the jobs that make your real carries shine brighter. Summoner and Dragoon can absolutely swing a fight with their raw damage output, but they are also at the mercy of charge times, terrain, and enemy movement. It is like watching your damage dealer do a mic check before every attack. Impressive when it lands, frustrating when it does not. Meanwhile, Orator and Squire are less about their battlefield presence and more about the gifts they give you. Level them up, grab their amazing utility skills, and then move on to something more specialized. No one brags about maining Squire, but everyone brags about how quickly they max jobs with JP up. That is the real value. The Knight sits somewhere in between. It is not a purely utility job like the Squire, but it is not a raw powerhouse like the Dragoon. It is a steady, reliable tank with some party support potential. And hey, destroying a boss's equipment never stops being funny. Sure, it is a little cruel, but hey, they were trying to kill you first. B-tier jobs are basically the toolkit of Final Fantasy Tactics. They are the jobs you pass through, pick up some great abilities, and sometimes even bring along for specific fights. They are not always worth keeping around long-term, but when you need them, you are glad they are there. If you think of S and A-tier jobs as your varsity team, then B-tier jobs are your junior varsity. They may not make the highlight reel, but they train hard, cover the gaps, and get you to where you need to go. Without them, your best builds would not even exist. So do not sleep on B-tier. They might not win the game for you, but they make sure you are ready when it is time to bring in the big guns. And honestly, sometimes watching a Dragoon faceplant a jump or an Orator accidentally recruit a monster you did not even want is half the fun. The jobs in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right: Monk, Geomancer, Black Mage, White Mage, and Time Mage. There comes a point in Final Fantasy Tactics, the Ivalice Chronicles, where you stop playing with novelty jobs and start leaning into the big guns. A tier is where the serious business begins. These are the jobs that might not break the game wide open, but they will absolutely carry you through some of the toughest fights if you build them right. Let's start with the Monk. On the surface, you might think, oh great, another punchy guy. But the Monk is so much more. Martial arts gives you a Swiss Army knife of instant free abilities: healing, reviving, buffing, and of course, punching someone into next week. The fact that all of this costs 0 magic points makes the Monk an incredible pick for resource management. Add in the Brawler support skill, and suddenly even your squishiest mages can throw hands like they are auditioning for a martial arts movie. Now, the Geomancer is all about versatility. It is one of those rare hybrid jobs that actually works. Geomancy is fast, reliable mid-range damage that also comes with a chance to inflict status effects. You are basically attacking and trolling your enemies at the same time. Stat-wise, the Geomancer is balanced across the board, so it never feels weak. And then it hands you attack boost as a support skill, which turns your frontliners into absolute monsters. It is the perfect mix of utility and raw power. Of course, no discussion of A tier is complete without talking about the Black Mage. This is your pure damage dealer. The magic attack growth is insane, the elemental coverage is huge, and from start to finish, Black Mage never stops being useful. Whether you are clearing groups of enemies or blasting a boss into oblivion, Black Mage is always ready to deliver pain. On top of that, mastering Black Mage is mandatory for unlocking advanced magic jobs, and magic attack up is one of the most valuable support skills in the game. This is not just a job, it is a cornerstone of magic-focused builds. Then we have the White Mage, the ultimate reliable support unit. It might not have the flash of a summoner or the chaos of a mystic, but when your team needs healing, White Mage delivers every single time. Cure, Protect, Shell, these are lifesavers. And while Chemist provides item-based healing, White Mage brings sustainable, large-scale healing that items just cannot match. Having both in your party basically means your team refuses to die. It is not glamorous, but it is the kind of job you miss the second you do not have it. The Time Mage, though, now this is where things get spicy. Haste, Slow, Teleport, and Short Charge. That list alone is enough to put it in A tier. Haste can change the flow of battle entirely by letting your units act more often, while Slow cripples the enemy's pace. Teleport breaks the rules of movement in the best way possible, letting you zip around maps like a magician who forgot about physics. And Short Charge? That ability makes every spellcaster in the game better, especially summoners. If you are a serious magic user, mastering Time Mage is not optional. It is essential. What makes Monk and Geomancer so good is their flexibility. The Monk does not care about gear and can function at full strength almost immediately, making it a fantastic transitional job. Meanwhile, the Geomancer plays well with both physical and magical builds, and its map-wide utility ensures it is never out of place. These two are perfect examples of jobs that punch above their weight because they bring so much to the table. On the other hand, Black Mage and Time Mage are the bedrock of magical gameplay. You cannot build a serious caster team without them. Black Mage ensures your raw damage is top tier, and Time Mage ensures you actually get to use that damage before the enemy gets their turn. They complement each other beautifully, and their support skills define what strong magic builds look like. White Mage rounds out the set as the safety net. You might not always notice its impact when everything is going well, but the second your team starts taking heavy damage, White Mage feels like the most important unit on the field. Reliable healing is what lets the flashy jobs actually be flashy without instantly dying. A-tier jobs also stand out because they are useful across almost every stage of the game. Some shine early, some shine late, but none of them are dead weight at any point. Whether you are just starting out or pushing through endgame content, you can always find a reason to keep an A-tier job in the lineup. They might not break the game in the same way that S-tier jobs do, but they set the foundation for your best builds. These are the jobs that make sure your party is strong, sustainable, and versatile. Without them, even the flashiest S-tier units would struggle to stay relevant. So while S-tier might get all the hype, A-tier is where you find the backbone of Final Fantasy Tactics. They are the glue that holds the team together, the reliable stars you know you can count on. And honestly, sometimes being consistent and dependable is just as fun as breaking the game wide open. The jobs in this tier are in order from top left to bottom right: Arithmetician, Samurai, Ninja, and Chemist. You know that moment when a game just hands you something so powerful, so ridiculously overtuned, that you stop playing tactics and start playing Watch Me Clown on the AI? That, my friends, is S tier. These jobs do not just perform well, they bend the game over their knee and make it beg for mercy. Let's start with the Arithmetician, because honestly, how could we not? This is the job that completely destroys the concept of balance. Once set up, you can cast the majority of spells instantly, across the entire map, for free. No magic points, no charge times, no mercy. It takes investment to unlock, and using the calculation system can be a little fiddly, but once it clicks, congratulations! You have turned Final Fantasy Tactics into your personal playground. And if you do not even feel like playing, hand it over to the AI. They will spam it faster and smarter than you ever could. Next up, the Samurai. Yaido abilities are flashy and useful, but let's be honest, you are here for Shirahadori. This ability turns your character into a dodge tank that makes enemies look like they are trying to swing at a ghost. Add Double Hand into the mix and you suddenly have an alternative to dual wield that lets your big hitters swing for absurd amounts of damage with a single weapon. Samurai are like that one person at the gym who both looks intimidating and actually knows what they are doing. Then we have the Ninja, the king of speed and destruction. Dual wield alone could have carried this job into S tier. It is that strong. Attacking twice with any weapon is one of the most broken mechanics in the game, and pairing it with high speed growth makes the Ninja untouchable as a physical powerhouse. Throw is kind of underwhelming, sure, but who cares when you can dual wield Excalibur and Ragnarok and end fights before they begin? The Ninja is like playing the game on fast forward, and everyone else is stuck on pause. And then there is the Chemist, the quiet MVP of the game. No flashy spells, no giant damage numbers, just pure utility and survival. Items are instant, reliable, and never run out of magic points. Healing, curing statuses, reviving allies, it is all there. And it all just works. On top of that, Auto Potion is one of the best reaction abilities in the game, especially if you game the system by only stocking the strongest potions. Chemists are the unsung heroes, turning your fragile team into an unkillable wall of stubbornness. What makes the Arithmetician stand out is how it invalidates the entire magic system. Other casters need charge times, careful positioning, and resources. Arithmeticians need math. That's it. It is like the developers gave you a cheat code disguised as a job. Put those skills on a faster, sturdier class, and suddenly you are nuking the entire battlefield before enemies even blink. Meanwhile, the Ninja thrives because speed is king in this game. Turn order is everything, and no one manipulates it better than ninjas. Combine their growth with dual wield, and you are looking at absurd game-ending damage potential. This is the job that makes bosses feel like regular grunts. The Samurai, while not as outright busted as Arithmetician or Ninja, deserves S tier because of its support skills. Shirahadori is one of the most powerful defensive tools in the game, and Double Hand elevates physical builds to terrifying levels. Even if you do not main Samurai, you are taking those skills and sticking them on your endgame team. And the Chemist? Well, the Chemist is proof that sometimes the simplest tools are the best. No one else can revive instantly, cure statuses without fail, or heal without resource management. They might not look flashy, but they are the glue that keeps every party together, and Auto Potion alone ensures they will always have a place at the table. So when we say S tier, we are talking about jobs that break the rules, set the standard, and make you wonder how the game was ever supposed to be played without them. Arithmetician, Samurai, Ninja, and Chemist are the jobs that turn Final Fantasy Tactics into less of a challenge and more of a victory lap. And honestly, sometimes that is exactly what you want. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.